So when we're working that topwater and that fish blows up on it, remember, we're human. Our instinct is to set the hook. We have that soft rod absorbing some of that, and now with monofilament, we have a little bit of stretch there. So it's adding a little more delay, letting that fish get the bait in his mouth before you set the hook. And just like when we use the medium action rod to fight the fish, now we're doing the same with the mono, and it's helping to absorb some of that, and it really allows you to land more fish. So wrapping it up, you know, for topwater fishing, the rod, the reel, and the line are really all important parts of the equation to maximize your fishing. On the rod, 6'4" to 7 foot medium action. On the reel, low profile, and pick a ratio that matches what you're trying to do. And finally on the line, go with 30 or 40 pound braid and go with monofilament, anywhere from 10 pound all the way up to 20. And that is the perfect setup for topwater fishing. Let's tie some of these baits on now, and I want to show you how we're going to impart action, how to work these baits. All right, Bass University fans, we're getting to the end. We're almost done the topwater tutorial, but we're really now at the most important part. We talked about the 3 styles of lures, the walking baits, the poppers, and the prop baits. We talked about picking size and color based on forage match. We talked about selecting the right rod, reel, and line, but it all comes together right here. And we're going to go ahead and go through each of those 3 categories, and we're going to look at how to make these baits work. We're going to watch the walking action of that stick bait, the popping and spitting of a popper, and then that slashing prop bait. We're going to watch that thing in the water and watch how to work it. Let's start with the walking stick bait. And again, one of my favorites for covering a tremendous amount of water. And you know, one of the key components to working this bait is imparting that walk the dog side to side motion of that bait. That's what's going to draw the strikes. That side to side walking, slashing is going to be what makes that fish eat. It's the triggering agent. So let's take a look at how to make those baits walk. You know, again, on a walking bait, I cover a tremendous amount of water. So a lot of times with this lure, I'm going to make a really long cast. Remember, most of the time I'm not casting at a target, but rather I'm covering vast horizontal flats, trying to trigger that bite. So I'm going to start with a really long cast in that bait. When that bait first hits the water, I always like to let it rest for about 3 to 5 seconds. Sometimes I'll even go ahead as high as 15% of the time. You'll get a strike before you ever move that lure. And if you think about it, if there's a bass in the area where that bait lands, it hits, it moves, and then those ripples dissipate. That's a very natural movement of a shad that's died or a shad that's injured and stops. So I always will let that thing rest for 3 to 5 seconds on the initial cast. But if I don't get a bite, I'm going to start this rhythmic cadence. It's a series of short twitches that I'm going to impart with my rod and my wrist. And I want you to really look at this as I start to impart these twitches. I really want you to pay attention and focus on my wrist movement.